non-fungible tokens. Up until a couple of months ago, I used to think NFTs were kind of a scam, and now, very hypocritically, I work for an NFT company, and it is of my best interest to let you guys know why NFTs are relevant, why NFTs are important, why NFTs are here to stay, and why I think they are definitely not a scam. Take it with a grain of salt, take it for what it will. I am incentivized in every monetary way possible for you to be convinced of what I'm about to say in the most unbiased way possible, at least the way that I can be. I care about you guys. I care about the general public's well-being, and I think the faster you admit that this is going to be a thing and the faster that you take the time to educate yourself on this, the better it is for you as a citizen of this society moving forward, monetarily, knowledge-wise, to be relevant, all the things that matter, at least I think, in the 21st century. Unless you lived under a rock for the past 2-3 months since this has really boomed, you've probably heard the term NFTs before. Regardless if you're in the tech world, remotely interested in this kind of stuff, you've seen it somewhere on an ad as displayed by a celebrity, on the news, or some person like me coming at you to talk about it. To let you know why this is relevant in any means, speaking of rocks, know that this rock right here was recently and continuously sold for millions of dollars. And yes, literally this picture of a rock, and that is an NFT. I am not a developer. I am not a technical person. I don't know how to code NFTs. I don't know how to make NFTs. I know the general science behind it now that I've been involved in the field, but I'm trying to take this approach as a everyday Joe, common day person, of course, take my label as someone who is working for the NFT space aside, to let you guys know, using this video, why I think NFTs are cool and relevant, where it's headed, and what needs to happen for it to take the mass adoption that everyone is making it sound like. Please note that this is not an ad for you to buy an NFT, but for you to understand what an NFT is. A quick one-sentence explanation for those of you not willing to spend the 10 minutes that you take to watch this video. NFTs, or at least the science behind NFTs, allows you and I to own something digitally. Until the emergence of NFTs, you technically did not own anything in the digital world. We own things physically. I own this book. I own this t-shirt. We all know it because I'm owning it. I have it in my hand. But before the emergence of NFTs, before the emergence of blockchain technology, there was no really sure way of proving that you own something. You did own things digitally in video games. If you had a skin in League of Legends, yes, that belonged to you. But technically speaking, that belonged to you within that video game. If that video game disappeared, if that video game suddenly decided you don't own it, there was no for sure way of proving / telling that this item or asset belonged to you. NFTs, very simply put, enables you to enables the world to agree and fully recognize that you own the thing that you own in the digital world. Right now, it's limited to pictures like of that rock or a random monkey, but this is going to expand, as you might imagine, as you enter the Metaverse or the computer video gaming world where item ownership matters, or assets that you can tie physical goods to digital goods and prove on a worldwide receipt, ledger of sorts that everyone agrees on that you own that thing. But this takes a bit of a higher step for content creators or for people that just post online in general. Imagine being able to own the video that you produce, the tweet that you tweet out, the pictures that you post on Instagram, the thousands of data and content that you provide companies like Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, YouTube, that you technically have no ownership of, and they do whatever they want with it and sell that data off to credit card companies to find more about you and sell you better ads. Imagine you have ownership of these things and you can carry that around with people or limit people from having access to it or make money continuously of owning that asset. Imagine you're an artist, a singer-songwriter that owns songs, and without having to go through different labels or platforms like Spotify, you can sell directly to consumers and benefit off owning that music. Imagine you make digitalized art, and instead of selling it once and then never having to have monetary gain from it, every time that art sells, because you have code embedded to it, a smart contract of sorts tied to it, you can make money every time that art sells. This is the world that NFTs, blockchain, crypto hopes to create and is already creating. Currently, as you guys can tell, it's being used relatively one-dimensionally, and as with all growth stages of any industry, the early adopters and many of the people that are in it for the short gains are abusing the system by getting in, buying something, raising the hype, selling it off, and making that gain. There's not much real-world utility tied to these things, like the picture of the rock. Obviously, kind of like Pokemon cards, baseball cards, which also technically has no real-world utility. Value is what people give it. We have to tell the world that something is worth something, and if everyone agrees that that thing is worth something, then it is now worth something. That is how the NFT art market currently is working. It's kind of like the introduction of the internet back in the early 2000s, where things like MySpace and Yahoo search was booming, and it really wasn't high quality. There wasn't much social clout and real world utility tied to it, but this was the experimental phase. Random things were popping up. Whatever had first comer advantage was doing well, but eventually things matured, and things like Facebook and Google search came out on top that provided actual utility to people that were using it, like connecting with people that they haven't been able to connect to, or looking up your favorite restaurant and making sure that it had the right reviews, creating value, adding utility to things that previously didn't. Long story short, right now the NFT sphere is filled with random projects that provide zero value, are in it to make a quick gain and get out, just giving you a picture of a pixelated version of me. Why would you buy that if that is not worth anything? Of course, as I mentioned before, it is worth something if many people agree that it's worth something and it continues to go up in value. But for now, it seems like a lot of projects are quick cash grabs. Long story short, it's not going to last in this fashion forever. I think for NFTs to sustain itself, I think what it will ultimately come down to is the everyday person like you and I will be using something and not even know that NFTs or blockchain technology is behind it. We will be buying something digitally that matters. We will be accessing something digitally, or buying something, selling something amongst each other digitally, even though we have no idea the science behind it. We don't know Rust, we don't know Anchor, we don't know these various terminologies that everyday people, 90% of the population, will never get to hear about or touch, but secretly behind the scenes, it will be the technology that is supported by NFT and blockchain. Much like when we use our cell phones or the AirPods, we technically have no idea what the technology behind this is. All we know is once we stick this into our ears, we have great soundproofing and great listening capabilities. And that's kind of where most technology cycles happen. All these early adopters come in, try to build great things, people start rushing in, try to make a quick buck, have explosive, hype-related, trend-related things. Then the industry matures, there's real-world utility along with social utility. Then it becomes implemented into various different fields. People don't even know what's going on behind the scenes. And then massive adoption, and it becomes a part of everyday life. Bottom line, I highly encourage everyone to look into NFTs. Just Google what is an NFT. I'll put a couple resources down below that you can get started, simply because not for you to make a quick buck, not for you to flip a picture of a rock, but because this is the big thing. This is the next thing. This is already the thing. Web3, all these big boy terminologies that you hear, it's already here and it's here to stay. And even if before it wasn't here to stay, so much big boy money has been thrown into it. The big powers of the world will do whatever it takes to make it a thing. So you might as well get a head start. And I think just like I've done with investment banking, I want to lower this barrier to entry into entering this NFT blockchain sphere that I even had intimidated feelings about. And now I'm slowly starting to understand, and I want to take you on this journey of understanding the sphere and hopefully correct a lot of the things that I said in this video that are probably wrong. And I'm trying to get it right so that you and I can bridge that gap. Because right now, I think the biggest issue is that there's a huge disparity between those that have been in this field for a while, on the technical side, really understanding this space, and those that they need to be bringing in for this to work. But because of this knowledge gap, language gap even, it's really hard to massively adopt the 8 billion people that probably will ultimately succumb to the NFT sphere. There's a reason why this thing is becoming massively, widely spread. Experience it for yourself. And that's the best way to learn it. Just like I've done with careers, know that it's not this scary thing that only the select few are able to participate in. It will only become more widely spread, more fun, and more useful as more and more adapt into it. My one-sentence summary of the day is, if I told you in the early 2000s that a $100 billion industry will come out of teenagers posting their lunch online and other people reacting to it, you would call me crazy. Let me know genuinely if you have any questions. My Twitter DMs are open at @TheBrianJohn, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Let's go.